go. Healthy board making, sir. Can I start this with your mom in the room? We might need to insert this shit.
So
later.
you're gonna cue me with what's written behind me, so I don't have to go.
Yes. Yeah, we'll prompt you.
All right.
Yeah, don't look back.
You can swear in front of my mom. I just can't.
Okay. All right, then I'll handle the opening like I always do.
You do. Hang on. Did we start it?
It is started.
You checked his sound and everything?
Yep, he's good. We're all on the right level. You just got to remember to sit close to it. Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
I'm close.
There you go.
I'm happy.
Good. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm never sure.
But he's always ready.
Perfect. All right. Problem and clock started.
Just let it rip.
All right, welcome back, you motherfuckers.
There it is.
There's a little hesitation on that because we have some guests in the room today.
We do.
And Jack, why don't you tell us who's here today?
Senior's here, my dad's here, and my mom's here being a quiet, casual observer.
Yeah.
So I'm not allowed to swear this episode because I'm not allowed to swear in front of my mother.
Good luck.
Even though I'm a 43-year-old man.
Yes. So I'll do. I'll pick up all the cussing for this one.
Okay, thank you.
Just you could just write me out of the will later. It's fine. So today, Senior, we have a treat for you, and we like this. And if you don't, then we'll pour something else. But this is called bribery, and the bottle caught my eye, but they finished these in port barrels, which I really like. So this is 100 proof, which is 50%. And I think that's about all the information that they give us on it.
Yeah,
so
that one was pretty sparse.
100 proof.
Yeah, it's and you have no ice over there, so you'll be all right. We'll figure it out. But so we're gonna drink bribery today. We drank this on another episode. It was delicious.
Yeah, it was really good.
I would recommend this. I will buy this again.
Yeah.
And why don't you shamelessly promote us while I pour these up?
Yes, sir. So YouTube, Shattered Wisdom. Check us out. Like, subscribe, watch. Like we said, we've videoed some of this stuff with Mr. Eric Pease a couple weeks ago.
We have 200 videos on YouTube?
We have 200.
Yeah.
I should probably go watch our own YouTube more, maybe, yeah. But go on there and check it out. Obviously, Instagram, Shattered Wisdom Podcast. I am Shattered Wisdom _Jack. He is Shattered Wisdom _Jerett. Go on, say hi, DM us, send us questions. I've gotten a lot of DMs, especially about the last short episode we did. A lot of people liked our Elon Musk Tesla robot episode. And then again, shatteredwisdom.com. You can find out some information. And then the Dofo dinner, the
February
22nd of
yes.
February. Yep. So that'll be a good time. Barcuso. We are going to be doing a speakeasy live recording with Mr. Joey Mancuso from Barcuso. So we put it out a couple episodes back that if you want to go on that, DM us, and we'll get you in. But we're only going to bring people that DM us.
Right.
Just because you know us and like us doesn't mean you get in. You got to interact.
Yeah, you have to let us know. Otherwise, your spot's taken.
Yep. So, and then I think that's it. We've got a bunch of other stuff up here, but we've got a lot of material to cover. We're very excited to have Senior back today.
It's been a couple of days. You've been on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see you guys again.
Yeah.
Let's cheers up so we can drink.
Oh yeah.
Cheers, brother. Cheers. Cheers, Senior. Oh man, that does not disappoint.
Yeah. Mom's driving home.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
100%.
Maybe they'll get the overpass jumper that Ella and I got yesterday.
Oh man, and you were the first one.
I was
if
right
you would have
there.
just been a little faster.
You know what I did? I always take the fast track, and I was like, dude, it's 6:15 at night. There ain't going to be any traffic, and all these people were whizzing by me in the fast track, and I thought for a second, I'll just jump over in there and go around. But there was 4 CHP around me in a helicopter, so I went, company truck.
I guess I'll just watch
I don't want to be on the news. But I was waiting too.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, if this person jumps,
Ella's going to have a whole different fucking night.
Yeah, Ella was sitting in the front seat, and I'm like, literally just finished CPR first aid training last week. So if this person comes off the overpass, I'm going to have to run over there with Deputy Doolittle and drag her corpse off the freeway so we can all go home. So
100%.
Hopefully you don't run into that tonight.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope all the crazies are fucking asleep.
Yeah.
Let's hope their 3-day benders are done. Stop messing around out there.
Stop messing around. So we'll draw a question.
How about you have your dad draw a question?
Oh, that's a good... Yep, I forget. I get so excited.
That's a tiny little piece of paper you picked there, sir.
Oh, it's handwritten too, which means it's from Kendra.
What do your wives do for work?
Oh, that's easy.
Put up with our shit?
Yeah.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah. My wife is the chief client officer of a property management company. So she works in client retention. And she deals with homeowner associations. And God love her for the amount of patience she has, because we're going to get her on here and have her do an episode. And she's going to tell us some fun and interesting homeowner association stories. It's wild.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Yep.
My wife, who for the longest time used to tell people, I'm a stay-at-home mom, which is a job in itself, but she's full of shit. JJ is a successful business owner. She's owned a couple of businesses. She runs our life, and she runs his fucking podcast.
Yep.
What don't you do, JJ? You don't know?
She breeds puppies. She has an Amazon store.
Yeah.
She's a travel agent.
Yeah, she owns a travel agency. Entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh,
There
yeah,
you go.
for sure.
JJ's a successful entrepreneur.
And Dad, what does Mom do these days?
She saves me every day.
She's sitting in the corner rolling her eyes at you right now.
Well, your mom's quite a celebrated lady. One of her major successes is she's not only a licensed pilot, she's also a licensed seaplane pilot.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And she's got a master's degree, and she manages all of our finances, fortunately, or we'd have been broke, and we'd be living under a bridge. So everything we have, I owe to her. I've been fortunate enough to make the money, but I haven't got brains enough to keep it.
Yeah.
So
Sad story of my life.
Yeah.
and she worked for the government. She worked in Pomona, which is a pretty tough job.
Yeah.
Dealt with the public. Why she did that, I don't know, but she retired from that and survived it. And she raced her own tractor in the Great Temecula Tractor Race for a couple of years and did real well. In fact, she kicked your ass in a race.
I tried to pit her too. I tried to pit maneuver and she beat me.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun at the tractor race. I kind of wish that was still around.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. And of course she had you, which was cool.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. Of course, you were born right into an incubator because you had double pneumonia.
Yep.
And she had the flu, and it was a dynamite show.
Sounds great.
And of course, she had your sister.
Oh, yeah.
And she teases me about, because you were both born in July, you were conceived during hunting season.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the family joke around here, isn't it? Dad needed something to go hunting with. I got a daughter and a son and never got the animal.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because that's what we're going to talk about today is hunting.
Yes. We are doing a little hunting segment. Since you have all the stories and you've done all the things, you've been hunting for
70 years.
70 years.
Yep.
That's
I started
incredible.
hunting when I was 12.
Okay, so how'd you get into that?
I got into that because part of our family history is my father who was a genius of a machinist, worked the graveyard shift. So I never saw my dad usually, except on Saturdays and Sundays, because he would go to work at 4 in the afternoon, and I hadn't gotten home from school yet. And then I would do my homework and eat and go to bed. And he'd get home. He'd work till midnight. He'd get home at 1, and he'd sleep till 10 in the morning, but I was back in school. So he was not an absentee father, but our lives didn't collide. So, and he wasn't ever interested in fishing or hunting. He never had that as an interest. So I got I wanted a gun. I wanted a gun bad. We had a really fantastic home in northern New Jersey, and at that time there was lots of farmland around our house. The railroad was 500 yards behind our house, and it went down past the river, so I was always going out the back, down the railroad tracks and playing in the river and fishing and doing that stuff. And so I wanted a 22 rifle real bad. And so my parents gave me Stephen Savage 22 single shot little bolt action rifle. And I would shoot anything in the yard I could. Rabbits, anything else. And Mom put an end to that, but Dad really was non-committal. And the neighbor had a huge amount of property, and the last time I was on, I told you all about the Packard that we used to drive around our barn.
Yeah, the limousine.
Well, that limousine was the neighbor's, and he was a Dutchman, and his name was Plog, P-L-O-G. That was his first name. Plog Carlson. And he owned the lumber yard.
Okay.
And he heard me plinking around one time, and he signaled me over. And I wandered over to his house. He said, "What the hell are you shooting?" And I said, "Rabbits." And he said, "You can shoot them in my yard." And he said, "And I've got $1 million in the lumber yard." So I ended up shooting a lot of rabbits and had a great time and fell in love with it. So I wanted to go hunting. And my dad was only available Saturdays and Sundays. And so my mother said to me, "I'll take you." I went, "What?" She said, "I'll take you hunting if you want to go." So I applied, bought a deer license in northern New Jersey, up in Port Jervis. And my mother packed a picnic basket, and she drove me up there to the woods and said, "I'm going to sit right here in the car. I've got a blanket, and I've got things to do, books to read, stuff like that, and you go hunting, and when you come back, we'll go home." And so my mother introduced me to hunting, and so I did that. And I was not successful at all. The number of times she took me, but it was meant a lot to me that she was willing to do that for me, and it gave me the poison pill, and I've been hunting ever since.
And you got an inheritance when your grandfather died, didn't you? And you bought a couple rifles?
Yeah, I was 19, and my grandfather died and instructed my father to share a certain amount of money with my sister and my brother and me. And he was a pretty wealthy man. He owned a company that made scales that weigh pickup trucks and tractor trailers and stuff. And he owned the Richardson Scale Company. So I got $5,000.
What year was this?
1961.
So a fucking lot of money. You could have bought a brand new car off the lot.
You got two. That's a down payment on a house.
Well, I'll tell you what I did do. I went and I bought a Beretta double-barrel shotgun. I told you about that. Mm-hmm. And I bought the Browning Medallion 3006.
Mm-hmm.
I bought, this was all the same day, I bought a Marlin micro groove rifle, a lever action rifle kit that had a 35 and a 22. And they both had 24 karat gold triggers. And the 35, neither one of them came with a scope, open sights. So I bought those 4 guns, and I bought a Colt convertible 6, which was a revolver, and you could convert it from a mag cylinder to a regular
pistol round.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I bought all of that, and then I bought a Herbrand wrench set. And Herbrand back then was the premium wrenches.
Oh, nice.
And they're not like Snap-ons in that you can't. I don't know if they still make Herbrands, but I had a friend that was a real tool guy, and he said that back when I bought that, I probably paid $90 for it, and it was every wrench size, it was a box wrench with an open end. Mm-hmm. It set, and it went from 1 3/8 all the way down to 1/4 inch, and I've still got the set.
Huh.
So it's pretty valuable set.
What's funny too is his 30-06. I shot my first elk with.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he shot his big elk with it too.
Yeah.
Fucking monster.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, a good friend of ours in Colorado, I was talking to him the other day. He told me he had 100 guns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he said.
I don't doubt it.
And he said, "I'm trying to sell my guns." He's like, "I got 100 guns." And every time I go
Yeah,
hunting,
Jerett's.
You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand.
every time I'd go hunting with him, he'd say to me, "Why are you bringing that goddamn 3006 with you? Do you know what that son of a bitch is worth?" And he'd get all fired up and mad at me, and I said, "What good is it if I can't shoot it?"
Yeah.
And it shoots like a dream.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's got a Mannlicher Schauenauer action, because way back when they built that that gun, it was all done in European. It was a European built gun.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful gun, and it's gold inlay, and it's all engraved, and I went nuts when I got that inheritance.
Yeah, with that $5,000, I would have.
But can you imagine walking into a store right now and going, "I want all 4 of those rifles and that pistol"?
Yeah.
First of all, they'd go, "Well, you can come back in a month and pick them up."
No, you can pick one up in a month, and then
Yeah.
another one in a month.
And then when
another
you
one in a
come
month.
back, the police are going to be here because they're going to ask you,
Yep.
where do you live and what do you do and how close are you to a school and were you
Yes.
bullied, and you'd be
Yeah.
on a watch list.
Yeah.
Yes. Nowadays you will, for sure. And you just bought them all and walked out.
Yeah.
Where did you buy them? Don't tell me about like a Sears.
Fucking
No,
Sears.
there was a gun shop.
Okay.
It was a gun shop. So
Okay.
I bought them there.
So I started hunting with you at a young age,
You sure did.
and then we got Jerett into hunting, and I started hunting with you. Was the bear hunt the first hunt?
I think the bear hunt
That's my favorite fucking story.
Yeah,
the bear hunt was the first time. We had a motorhome. You were about 9 or 10.
I think it's 10, yeah.
And we went. I had a grading contractor that was working for me when I was working for Arco, and he was grading my Arcos because I built all the Arcos from San Diego to Blythe on the 15. So the grading contractor, his hobby was hunting bears, but he didn't kill them. He hunted them, treat them, and that was his gig. He just likes to do it.
Huh.
And he had these dogs, and so I said, I want to go hunting. I want to hunt a bear. So he said, "Okay, well, you can always hunt with us." And I said, when and where. So we ended up going with them. And it turned out that there were about 10 men, and they each had large bear hunting dogs. And they all went to a campground at Lake Isabella, which is up by, it's up in the middle of the state. Anyway,
it's more northern.
Yeah, up above Bakersfield somewhere. So we went to the campground and didn't know what we were getting into. I'd never been bear hunting. So we drove in the motorhome and found a spot and anchored up, and then there was a creek going through the campground, and all of these dogs were on a tether, and they put a wire, about a 20-foot long wire, across the creek, and then they'd hook all their dogs on that wire, and then they could run up to the water and get a drink and hang out, but they were all tethered. And so the creek was full of dogs, with all these guys with dogs. And we got there, and she had made meals for us, and, all that kind of stuff. So we had supper and went to bed. And in the morning, it was a cacophony of noise, and the dogs were all going wild. And so we ate breakfast, and I got out of the camper, and his name was Harold, I think.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think his name was Harold. He came up to me and he said, "Look at the bear tracks. They walked right past your motorhome last night while you were sleeping." And I went, "Wow." And he introduced us to a form of hunting that none of us knew even existed in the world.
Yeah.
He had a small Toyota. I think it was a Toyota.
Yeah, Toyota pickup truck.
And he had all the dogs in individual cages in the bed of the truck. And he and I got in the front seat and I had my Marlin 35 because it had a 220 grain Corlock bullet.
Yeah.
And so we got in the truck and we started. But before we left, he opened the hood of the truck and he got out this blanket and he put it on the hood and then closed the hood so that the hood was covered with this blanket. And I looked at Jack and I went, So
maybe the truck's
Okay,
cold.
we're gonna find out.
so we took off and we got on this dirt road and he stopped the truck and he got out and he got a dog out of the bed. And he brought the dog up to the front and picked it up, and it was a hound, and put it on the hood of that truck. And there was a D-ring in that blanket, and he stuck a leash on her and hooked her to the D-ring, and we took off with that dog on the hood of the truck. Mm-hmm. And I went, well, what's this? We didn't go 100 yards, and that dog started doing backflips on the hood.
Yeah.
So he got out, and the dog had a radio collar on, unhooked the dog, and Jack and I got out, and it was pitch dark, and the dog goes off into the woods, and he waited and waited and waited, and he said, "Nah, it's kind of a cold track." And we were dumbfounded as what was going on here. And then he signaled the dog somehow, and the dog came back. And he put it back on the hood, and we took off again. And I said, that dog picked up a bear scent riding on the hood of this Toyota on a dirt road? And he went, yeah, that's how they do it. So we went another couple hundred yards, and the dog did a backflip. And he said, I think this is probably a hot trail by the way the dog is acting. So he let, another dog go. There were two
the dogs
of them.
in the back started blowing up.
Yeah. So he just let another one out, and he said, "We'll see what happens." And he said, "You'll hear him." And the bears go in a circle. They have a route, and he said, "They'll be back." So we waited, and then pretty soon he said, "They're on one. We're set." So we'd let all of them go, and we sat there at the truck, and you could just hear them making all that noise, wailing and barking, And they got farther and farther, and it got quieter and quieter and quieter. Pretty soon they didn't make a sound, and I'm thinking, now what? And he said, they're going around behind the mountain. They'll come around this way. Sure enough, a little while later, here they came, and you could hear them barking. And then he said, they got a bear treed. And I said, how do you know that? And he said, their collar has a little tube with mercury in it. And if they're running, that tube is horizontal. If they get a bear in the tree, they put their paws up on the tree, and that tube goes vertical, and it signals me that they got a bear. She said, get your gun. So we took off. And Chick went racing out into the woods. By then it was daylight. And I had that 22 revolver with me, and I had the 35. Yeah. And we got to the tree, and sure enough, that we call him Thurston. Thurston was up in the tree, but he was up at the top of a big tree.
Yeah.
And so I handed the pistol to Jack, and I looked around, and there was a great big boulder there, and I said, Jack, get up on that boulder, and here's a gun. If you need it, you know how to use it.
I did not know how to use it. I just want to clarify.
You figured that one out, John
I never
Wick.
shot a pistol. I never shot anything above a pellet gun in my life.
Yeah.
FYI. I would have sooner shot myself.
Yeah.
So then I went with the guy, and he said, I'm going to take these dogs one at a time, but I'm going to tie them all to a different tree all the way around. Because when those dogs are going, that bear is coming out of that tree. And I'm going to tell you what, if he kills one of my dogs, they're $5,000. And I went, don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah.
So I'm underneath the tree, and I'm watching them take the dogs away, and I keep looking up at the bear and keep looking up at the bear. And when he had about 5 or 6 dogs, and about the 4th dog, I got hit with a tree limb. Because I didn't realize it, but bears slide down a tree. After they climb it, they don't climb backwards. They slide.
They just
fireman pole it.
Just fuck it. Just here we go.
Yeah, here we go. What are you going to do? What are you going to do down there?
Yeah.
So
I'm not afraid of you.
he was a big fella, and he would hit a limb, and it would just break the limb off.
Oh shit.
And so I started raining limbs, and so I went, I'm getting out of here. So I backed away from the tree, and I looked at Jack, and he was up in a rock, up on the rocks, and I looked back, and I didn't see the bear. And I went, where's the bear?
Fuck, not getting one of those dogs, right?
And I'm looking around, and the guy that owned the dogs went, he's right there. And I looked, and that bear was standing up. And he was standing up, and he had his paws up, and he was doing the air. And I put that 35 right into his brisket, right there. And it just blew him. He did a backflip and landed on the ground. And I thought, now what?
Well, 220 grain core lock to the chest will change your life.
Yeah.
Change your fucking attitude.
So-
for sure.
Not so tough now, are you, Mr. Bear?
Yeah, stand back up, bitch.
So I walked up kind of circuitously around to come up on the bear from the other side of the tree just to make sure. And he was real dead. And so I said to Jack, come on down, son. He came flying down, and he said to me, Dad, what was, when you shot that bear, what was that stuff in the air? And I said it was poop.
He shit himself.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't. Then we had a problem. The guy said to me, "Well, good luck getting him out of here,"
Oh, cool. Thanks for letting me shoot him here. Fucking
Yeah.
dick.
because we never thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And California claims that they only have black bears.
Mm-hmm. I've seen your bear.
Thurston
No.
is a cinnamon, a cinnamon bear.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he's platinum
yeah.
blonde.
Quote, air quotes over here, black bear.
Yeah, there's no black on that bear, but the tip of his nose.
Yeah, no drop.
Yeah, he had red feet and blonde hair. I took him to the ranger to there was a couple of guys that had dogs out there, and they all offered, and we ended up carrying the bear out. But there was about 5 of us that got him out of there.
Dude, got a pole
Yeah, like tied it up
and put his hide on a pole and carried it between 2 people.
Yeah.
And carried quarters, and Dad handed me the backpack and the rifle, and so I had the 22 and the 35 and a backpack at 100 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got the bear out of there, and everybody got a big piece of him.
Yeah.
And we brought him. I took him to Las Vegas, and took him to a taxidermist there. And I had the tag that the ranger said to me, "This is a black bear." And I said, "There's no black hair on this bear." And he said, "I'm going to tell you about one more time that this is a black bear." And you're going to go, "Yes, sir." Got it. And I went, "Yes, sir, this is a black bear."
Yeah.
So I got him to Las Vegas. And when we dropped him off, the guy started measuring him. And he said to me, "You got this bear in California, right?" And I went, "Uh-huh." So he said, "And it says here he's a black bear." I went, "Uh-huh." And he said, "You know the world record for a black bear is 285 pounds." And I went, "Uh-huh." And he said, "Your bear weighs 586. And he's got a lump on his shoulder. So I have to put him on a grizzly bear for him. How about that?"
How about that?
And
No, but he's a black bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Thurstons.
Oh, yeah.
So you hold the state record for killing the biggest black bear, huh?
Well, you've seen him. He's a
He's
big boy.
massive. He is massive.
Yeah.
He's almost as impressive as your mountain lion that you have up there. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Jack
And
came
milk.
on that hunt.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
We got lots of
Hey, wait, real quick.
ground to cover.
Is bear good or is it shit?
We tried to cook that bear with
Every way.
every recipe in the world.
He couldn't make it good.
The dog went and looked at me like, "You want me to eat that shit?"
You're not eating it. What you
Yeah, what the fuck you feeding it to
And
me?
we had a freezer.
Do you remember why Thurston had the big bow? Tiffany brought it back from ASU.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, when we had when we had the bear mounted, he's standing up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just so your audience
Yeah,
understands.
picture this.
Yeah.
It's up like it's gonna rip your face off.
Yeah, he's standing on his back paws, mouth open, like I'm gonna.
Yeah, he's coming for you.
Like right before Dad shot him.
He froze that face when he shit on himself.
Well, while we're talking about him,
Yeah.
bears have a real bone in their penis.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's no such thing as an unerect bear.
Huh.
Because they got to catch the sow and do her, or there'd be no more bears.
Right.
Well, you can't wait for foreplay with a bear.
Right. Yeah, you gotta go.
Well, when Thurston's standing up, of course, guess what? And the taxidermist did him accurately. And our daughter was at ASU, and she came home and went, "Oh dear." And she disappeared and came back with this gigantic ribbon, and the tethers on the ribbon hung down over his manhood.
Yeah, he's got a big, like a giant bow tie and the ribbon. But a funny story about that, the guide was telling us, is he said, "I know this is your first time bear hunting, like your son's here, so I'm not going to do this to you, but I always tell guys, there's a tradition on a bear hunt, and you have to play the ivory flute.
Oh.
The ivory flute is
the bone?
the bone, and it's like it's almost
I
like a
have it.
pencil,
Yeah.
probably a little. It's almost like a drumstick, like you'd play the drums
Yeah,
with.
it looks exactly like a drumstick.
It's like 8 or 9 inches long, and it's got a hole in it. And he said, I tell guys, like, you have to play the ivory flute for good luck. And these guys are like, "Oh, yeah, I'll do it." And they're... And they go, oh, do you know what? That's not my ivory flute. That's my bear boner. And they all like, "Oh, it was in my mouth." Ah! But he had one that he carried with him that I don't know how many hunters he had play his quote-unquote ivory flute.
All of them.
Yeah.
Everybody but your dad.
Yeah, that was a fun hunt.
There you go.
So the next thing up here, and Jerett had a really good question, was what's your favorite hunt / what's your favorite thing to put on the table? Because we eat...
Yeah, because they could be different.
Oh, yeah, we eat everything that we shoot except the bear, which we ended up giving the bear to some friends of ours, and they, some Hispanic friends, and I think they made birria.
That's probably about the only thing you could do with it.
That's really the only way you make anything taste good if you make it into birria.
Well, they were thrilled to have it. I said, I got to get rid of all this bear meat because she couldn't stand to have it. You put it in the crock pot, you had to put the crock pot in the backyard because you couldn't stand what it smelled like.
It was funky.
It was terrible.
But yeah, what is your favorite thing to hunt and probably your favorite thing to cook, I guess?
Well, I'll tell you what. It's pretty hard to beat elk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
An elk hunt's exciting. Usually the season is gorgeous. It's just a joy to hunt elk. It's fun to hunt deer. You've shot a gorgeous deer a couple years ago on our farm, and I've got some trophy deer, but that's kind of an easy hunt.
Yes.
We did a lot of that hunting in Colorado.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of trees where we hunt. We didn't hunt mountain deer.
No.
We hunted high plains deer, so they're easy to hunt. Antelope are fun to hunt, and I love to eat antelope sausage.
Yes.
Antelope makes fabulous sausage. So I think of the hunt and the meat. It's got to be elk.
Yeah.
It's got to be elk.
Side note, real fast, and we'll see if we can get them to sponsor this show. Do you know who sells elk out here?
Out here in Harupa Valley?
In our area.
Huh.
Hottingers.
Oh, do they?
They sell elk.
Elk. Yeah. If you guys haven't eaten elk, and I would love, we used to do barbecues.
Oh, yeah.
And people would go, people would go, oh, they all knew. I'd have antelope, elk, and beef. And everybody would go, where's the antelope and where's the elk? And that was the first stuff that got eaten. Because we would do like elk burgers or the, like you said, the backstrap we cut into like 1 inch thick like medallion steaks and cook those up. People take them off the grill just about by their hands.
Yeah.
And so they would eat, and then they'd go, oh, this left is beef.
Yeah.
And we have really high quality, really good beef that we get from a guy that we hunt with. And they all wanted the elk and the antelope first.
So Kendra should have won, let's say that. So for Kendra, whatever. Should have won the first year chili cook-off with her elk chili.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Which was phenomenal. And once we told people that it was elk, they were like, this is delicious.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of phobia for people who are like, oh, I can't eat that. It's, this, that, and the other. But
Do you like beef stew?
Yeah.
You should taste her elk stew.
Oh, I bet it's fantastic.
We should go shoot an elk then.
Yeah. We should shoot a lot of things.
We should.
So what's the next hunt you want to do? Because in your 70 years of hunting, you've shot way more stuff
everything
than
that's fun.
we have.
I've shot about everything that I can. I've shot, geese and turkeys and all that kind of stuff. We all went on an amazing hunt in Alaska.
Yep.
And got nothing but sunburn and rained on.
And it's good stories. I think we have good stories from that.
And that was a terrific experience. We saw what people were hunting, and I'd sure like to get one.
Yeah.
But we were misled. That's the truth. We went there green. We didn't ever have any experience. Now we have friends. Now we know how to do it. Now we know where to do it. And the second time around is going to be a success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's caribou for those of you who are trying to guess who haven't listened to us, but it will be Caribou Hunt Part 2. This time, much less gear.
Yes.
Much more experience. Much different
and if you've
methodology.
If you've never seen a caribou, they're gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
They are.
Beautiful animals.
Yeah.
Their antler patterns are really weird.
They're random. They're wild.
Well, and the females have antlers as well, which is you gotta be careful in Alaska because if you shoot at a female, they take all your shit.
Yeah.
Well, what you have to do is you have to look for the male equipment.
Yes.
And you have to only shoot something that's got male equipment.
Yeah.
But you guys are not going to get away without telling people, without me telling, that when you hit a rock and blew the tire, I watched the two of you stuff a tire full of moss.
Yeah, full of reindeer moss.
Yeah.
Full of reindeer moss. This guy stopped to help us, and he said, none of us have got a spare. But if you take a knife and slit that tire wide open and stuff it full of moss, you can drive on it. And I watched you guys stuff a tire.
So in a pinch, it worked.
It worked for 100 yards, and then you were back out.
I stuffed my hands raw.
Yeah.
And we got to the point where Jerett went, quit stuffing that tire, Jack, because Mike and the boys had picked you up and got you back to camp. And Jerett said, we're getting to the top of that hill where the radio tower is. I don't care if we rip the wheel off this thing. And I went, okay. And we packed it full of moss one last time and up that rocky, gnarly hill we went into the darkness.
That hill was so high. The climb up that hill.
Was it unbelievable?
It was, but
on 3 tires?
Yeah. It was so beautiful out there.
And the guy that they stopped the guy and they said, would you take Dad out of here? And I went, what am I, an invalid?
No.
So, but the guy was driving a 6-wheel bathtub.
Yeah, it's called an Argo.
Argo, yeah. That thing was badass.
It was badass, but I got into that thing and looked at him and went, this could only happen to me.
But you are also the reason why we got invited back.
Yes.
They came back, and I was like, hey, thanks for getting my dad out. We really appreciate it. I hope it wasn't too much. And they all were like, no, we love your dad.
They're like, are you fucking
They're like, well, he's our dad now. You guys can come back. We'll
take him.
He's like, dude, he told us about he wanted to hunt caribou and he wanted this. And we got all their phone numbers. I still text them and stuff.
Yeah,
and they're like, when you come back, your dad, you guys come back, and you guys did this all wrong. And they were kind of like, we'll take care of you. Yeah. But you're the reason why they wanted us to come back. So it was good. It all worked out.
Well, and as far as preparation goes, right? So we went in kind of blind. You really don't know what to think. We really didn't know where we were going to end up. We really didn't know where the migration happens. I mean, there's a lot of things that we were very naive to think like, okay, this guy's going to tell us this point, and we're going to go there, and we're going to be successful. And we didn't see a caribou until we were driving home.
Yeah.
Well, but it's funny. It's like your buddy's telling you, oh, man, there's all these women in Kentucky. You just got to go to the right spot in Kentucky, and you just got to hang out, and they'll pass by, and you can just pick one of them up. Yeah. And you go, I've never been to Kentucky. And they're like, it's okay.
It's cool.
Just go here, and you should be all right.
It's Kentucky. You'll be fine.
And they at least got us a waypoint, but we got there, and it was like, none of us have ever been to Alaska.
No.
We've never hunted caribou. We grossly overpacked all of the wrong things.
Everybody was like, so I make friends often. Mm-hmm. The guy, when I was loading up the fucking side-by-side, was like, you look like the Clampetts.
Yeah.
We did, too.
No, cool. And it was pouring rain.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And he had like a 2-person tent, and that was it. Like, he had nothing.
Yeah, if you're hunting the caribou migration, it is minimalist.
Yes, yeah.
Food, water is going to be your biggest bulky items, and everything else fits in a backpack.
Yeah, everything else you don't need.
And when they said to us, by the way, this is a permit hunt.
Yeah.
And as soon as we know that there's 300 caribou that have been taken, we're going to come with helicopters and planes and drop pamphlets on you and tell you all of your licenses have been canceled.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never had a guy threaten me like that.
Yeah.
we were very taken aback.
Yeah, it was very different and very not expected. But I will tell you this: I am glad that we had the experience.
Me too.
And I'm glad that, as shitty as it turned out, I'm glad that it turned out that way because we got friends out of it. and I mean, like lifelong friends. Those guys are going to be our friends forever.
Oh yeah.
And they are going to bring us back and show us the right way to do it. And those guys had what, 44 Magnums? Like they had we had 9mm. They had 44s.
Oh, they looked at us like it was like me with the 22 again.
Yeah. They're like, "What are you gonna do with that?" I'm like, "Shoot a bear." They're like,
Yeah,
you're just gonna piss it off.
Yeah, he's gonna eat you anyway.
Just the videos that they showed me when we got back, while you guys were struggling to get out.
Yeah, we were hanging out.
They showed me a video where there were probably 75 caribou 30 feet away.
Yeah.
And they just said, they don't care that we're here.
Oh no, they're trying to get from point A to point B, and you just
pick out the one you want, boom, and it's over. And I went, how did I ever miss that whole show?
We were 25 miles away from where they were, and that's what they said. That the thing about the migration is, it's going to happen if you're there. It happens like that. You're 30 feet from them. If not, you're 40 miles from them, and you'll never get to them.
Right, and people keep pushing them too, right? Like as you're taking out this herd, you're pushing them different directions because they follow the scent of like the male peas, right? And they follow that scent. That's how everybody gets. So I'm sure as soon as that trail is broken, then they kind of migrate off their own way and make their own path.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. That team that saved us.
Yep.
They never go caribou hunting where they don't.
They're always successful.
Oh yeah, they're always successful.
So they're going to know where they are.
Yeah.
They're locals.
Yeah.
They know where they are.
Well, that's funny too. I think this is a good segue into the next topic because when we were out there, we had no cell phone service.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our cell phones were turned off. We had a little Garmin InReach.
InReach, yeah.
You could kind of send text messages on, but it was just us and our thoughts. And
didn't I call you from there?
We messaged everybody from that little Garmin InReach.
Oh.
But you're out there, and it's you and your thoughts, and Alaska's 4 million square miles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was funny when we were chatting with Dad here before we started recording this. We were kind of talking about what you want to talk about on this episode. I mean, 70 years of hunting experience, we could probably do
this for a month.
Yeah. But you brought up something about what happens when you're alone in the field.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of solo hunts and a lot of hunts when you're alone. Most of the time that I've been hunting, I've been with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've been with Jerett. I've been with somebody. So what is some of the stuff that happens when you're alone out there?
You go through a period where you're thinking that all of a sudden there's going to be the game you're looking for is just going to walk around the next tree, and then you realize that it's going to be a big stroke of luck when that really happens for you, and it doesn't happen all the time. And as the day starts to wear, your mindset changes and you start to get a little more perceptive to the woodland sounds. Squirrels can all of a sudden become a huge noisy mess.
Yeah.
And when they see you, they start to squeal and squeak and carry on. And pretty soon, all the little varmints that are running around out in the woods start to signal that there's something here that we don't care for. And you don't realize that alerts probably the game you're interested in seeing, because they're thinking, that game is thinking, up the trail that ways, there's a lot of commotion here, and we're going to just avoid that area. So you get a lot of time to sit alone, and you start wandering, you let your mind wander, and you think about different things, and you get lost. And it's got its pluses and its minuses. It's good, I think, for us to be able to be totally alone for a day with our thoughts while we're awaiting something to happen. You can still hunt. I've still hunted where you would sit in a spot for a while and go, this may not be cool. Let me move. I'll go 100 yards this way or 100 yards that way, and think you're going to change your odds. What brings a wild animal into your view is whatever nature gives you. And so there's some advantages to that, and you can solve some problems, and you can get resolute about some stuff. But I've had hunting partners that I've hunted with my whole life, and they hate it. They hate it. They don't want to be alone, and they want to see their partner or a buddy. And they'll say, I'm going to only sit 50 yards away from you. And it's a little, for me, that doesn't work in that I'm okay being alone. I'm okay digging where I am and what's cool and what I'm hearing and things I don't hear ordinarily because I'm deaf as opposed.
Yeah, Dad wears Walker game ears. So it's a headset, and what they do is they amplify the ambient noise. But then when you shoot, they like become sound
dampening.
Sound dampening, yeah.
Yeah. And they're amazing because I don't hear well. It's pretty. I did Vietnam. I did that whole game. I got blasted, jet blast. I flew for the Navy and I got jet blast. And one time I got hit with a jet blast, and I ended up in sick bay because my ears were bleeding. And that was a strange experience. But I've got a disability income now because partly I had some real serious hearing loss in the military.
Well, it's funny, when he wears those Walker game ears, he'll go, "Why are you yelling at me?"
Right.
And I go, "This is the volume that I normally talk to
This
you
is
at.
how we actually talk."
You just don't always hear that well."
Yeah.
We'll hear him. He'll sit there and he'll kind of, I've been out with him and he'll start to kind of giggle. And I'll go, "What is so funny?" And he goes, "I can hear everything." Everything.
And don't fart again.
Yeah, and he's like, you are so loud. I'm like, you're wearing megaphones pointed into your head.
Into your ears. Yeah.
I'm trying to be a church mouse out here, which, by the way, you can tell me where all the field mice are because you can hear all of them.
Yeah. You haven't lived till you've had a chipmunk stand about 3 feet away from you and tell you off.
I don't know what you are, but you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll scream and chirp and carry on and flip their tails up and down and, that's fun.
What's funny, too, I remember we were elk hunting. We were on Elkhorn Mountain, and Dad and I were sitting by a game trail, and a deer came in. A little buck came in. We didn't have a tag for it. And so if they can't see you and if they can't smell you or hear you, they're just going to assume that those animals are going to assume that you're not there. And if you're sitting there, we had camouflage on, so you kind of blend in a little bit. If none of those senses are there for them, you're just another object.
Right.
So we sat there and literally just sat there and watched this little deer, and he was probably there.
It was fascinating.
For 20, 30 minutes, and he ate, and he flipped his tail around and kind of looked at us and didn't see us, and he just ended up meandering off. And some of the stuff that we've seen, we were actually antelope hunting in Colorado, and there were these 2 little bucks. And what they do is the bucks they make a harem. They gather up a bunch of does, and they call it a harem. So elk do it, deer do it, antelope do it. This one buck had 1 doe. It just him and his girl. And they were cruising through a field. We saw him like, oh, there's a buck right there. And we were watching him, and we saw another buck coming. And it was another smaller buck. And they started fighting for this doe.
Really?
And we put our rifles down and sat there and watched those 2 fight and carry on. And she, like any other woman, was sitting there like, oh, come on, Jerry. Like, I got stuff to do. Just beat this guy and let's move on. And we had a really cool experience just sitting there. We just sat there and watched those 2 duke it out for however long. And then whoever won scooped her up and off they went, and the other one kind of licked his wounds and hung back a couple 100 yards. And
so what people don't understand about hunting, animals that you can't call in, you have to pattern. And if you're in the middle of nothing, nowhere, the chance that you get lucky is very rare. Like, if an animal comes into where you are and you haven't set, like, on a game trail or something, you know, if you're just out hunting, let's say you're a first-time hunter, you go out, right, you're with your mom, you go out, and you just start walking, right? Because at that point, you're kind of just like, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to find the do's and don'ts, and then you go from there. But if you're, you know, listening to this podcast right now, you're like, I could go shoot a fucking deer. No, you can't.
good luck.
Yeah. Best of luck to you. I have one friend who patterned deers here in California. They're tiny. I wouldn't probably shoot a California deer, but he was actually successful. And
It's like shooting a dog.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
he's like, oh, I got
Kevin?
this 6-point, and I'm like, one of my antlers from my first fucking deer is bigger than your whole fucking deer.
Kevin, your cane corso is about the size of most deer you'd shoot out here.
Yeah, I don't need to spend the money and put in all the time to get 40 pounds of meat. Like,
but I think it's
not.
funny too. You say that people that, because growing up hunting, and when I started hunting with Dad, people were like, "Oh, you hunt?"
right?
I went, "Yeah," and they were kind of like, "Oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
You like that?" And I went, "Yeah, it's cool." Nowadays, if you tell people you're a hunter, you get a lot more negativity towards you.
Right.
But people assume, or I think they think that you're. It's like going to the zoo and picking out the zebra you want to shoot. We've been on so many hunts. I have a ammo can in my gun safe of tags.
Yeah.
I've got a whole bunch of tags I've never punched.
Yeah.
And we've gone out areas where we know we have animals, where we know we can be successful. If you've never seen a pronghorn antelope run away from you at 55 miles an hour,
they're fast.
They're the fastest North American land animal, and they have a little white butt. And when they see you and go, nah, you see about 4 hops of a little white butt and some dust, and then they are just gone because they're in the next county.
Yeah.
But people think, oh, you just walk out there with a gun and you murder all these animals. I'm like, nah, there's been years and years and years of instinct that these animals have.
Yes.
And the does always bust you. The ladies always bust you, like in real life.
Because they're watching. Yeah, they're paying attention.
And especially with the antelope, there'll be one doe, and she'll be sitting there. The matriarch will be kind of up on a hill, and she'll be eating and chewing her cud, and she'll see you, and she'll turn and run. And then the rest of the does run, and then the guys go, well, we might as well chase them.
Yeah, where the girls going?
And then they all run off, and you get back in the truck, and you go find some other ones, because they're gone.
Yeah. Well, I'm so lucky to have you guys have taken me under your wing, because I've always been interested in guns. I've always liked shooting, and I've always been into that. Finding people that you can talk about hunting with who are avid hunters, and you're a nobody, like you've never been hunting before. A lot of people don't want to take you out, you know, and on their experiences, because they're like, you're going to fuck this up for me. So I appreciate you guys taking me out with you and letting me, you know, enjoy this life, because I love it. And I can't imagine how I went so far in life without doing it. But I didn't know the right avenues, and hunting here in California's got a bunch of restrictions, so I wasn't going to do that. But knowing people is key, and people who have knowledge in 70 years of fucking hunting, like, that's insane. That's incredible.
Well, and that's probably a good funny story. You got started hunting in Colorado because you and Mom moved to Colorado in 78.
Before we moved to Colorado, before we got married.
Yeah. So, but you have a funny story. You wanted to get hunting in Colorado, and the people that we hunt with now. Did you meet them at a hunting camp, or how did you get started there?
Yeah. When she and I went to Denver, we were escaping Massachusetts, and I had built 2 homes in Massachusetts, one right after the other, and both of the gentlemen that I built those homes for were Colorado residents, and they lived in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, which is above Denver. And all they did was rave about Colorado, but they moved back to Massachusetts because their wives were from Massachusetts and they wanted to retire there. And when she and I decided that we needed to move out of Massachusetts, we just up and loaded my F-150, tied her little yellow Volkswagen on the back of it, and we drove to Denver. And we got there in a snowstorm, without a job, without a world. And she got hired right away at Children's Hospital. And as soon as she got into Children's Hospital, she was working for the engineering and maintenance department as a secretary. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had an opening for a carpenter. And I had a lot more experience than that. So, because I had my own business in construction and built homes and all that. And she told her boss about me, and I started there as the hospital carpenter and ended up as the manager of construction services. And we built a big addition at Children's Hospital. So I was there to do that, and she was there to run engineering and maintenance with a real wacky boss.
Yeah.
I don't know how she had the patience to put up with him, but he was a fanatic. At the end of the day, he would stand at the door and he wanted your keys. So that when you left, you had to give him your keys to get in the morning. And we would come to work in the morning and the door would be open because he opened all the doors so we could come in to go to work, but he wouldn't even let us have a key, let us keep our keys.
Jesus.
Which is kind of odd.
Yeah.
He didn't last. But I did. And she did.
Yeah.
Thank God.
But how did you get into hunting in Colorado?
Well, I hired a guy. I needed a carpenter to take my job. And I hired a guy, and he was a hunter. And I said to him, so, you're a hunter. I said, where do you hunt? And
Oh, yeah. This is like every one of us. Kendra
Yeah.
hears that. I'm like, oh, you hunt? She goes, oh, God.
Yes.
Yeah. So I go, where'd you hunt? And he said, we hunt in Elkhorn Mountain, which is outside of Steamboat Springs. And I went, okay, yeah. So can I go with you? And he said, sure. So I said, all right. So we planned a hunt, and we went hunting. And he had a big tent, and we used his tent. And he said, we'll just go up to where my friends hunt, and we'll pitch our tent in the neighborhood, and then we'll go over and visit him, and we'll get to know him. And the folks he introduced me to were extreme Colorado Plains farmers.
Yeah.
Complete, dedicated farmers. Don't misunderstand me. These were wealthy men.
Yeah.
A couple of those guys had thousands of acres of pasture and hundreds and hundreds of beef cows they were raising, and they were raising these guys were good. And I was introduced to that gang, and when we walked into that tent, their tent, they had a wall tent, which, by the way, we have.
Yeah, we have one now.
They had a wall tent with a wood-burning stove in it and all that stuff, and they were playing cards, and we went in there, and in an hour, I had bonded with my kind of people.
Dad played your role.
Yeah.
Dad became the new mayor, of the hunting camp.
And all we did was laugh for 2 days. We didn't shoot an animal that hunting trip. As a matter of fact, one of the older guys who turned out to be my best friend till the day he died said, he said, you know what? The next elk that sticks his head through the door of that tent, I'm going to kill him. I hunted with him for 35 years until he quit hunting. He never killed an elk in his life.
I only got to hunt with him one time. And
I'm talking about Raymond.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about Raymond. His son didn't show up till the next year.
Okay.
And I basically adopted him.
Oh, yeah.
And I still am his adopted father.
And he's a fantastic. All these guys do, salt of the earth, super humble, very unassuming. They're awesome. Every one of them we hunted with, and unfortunately some of them have passed away, and I had the opportunity to be like the kid, everybody's son in the hunting camp a couple times, and had some fantastic times with them, but awesome.
Yeah. You know, that's a dying breed.
It is a dying breed.
Oh, dude.
And they're all the real deal.
Yeah.
Like, every time I think about saying the real deal, I've got to interrupt you and tell you a little story about my mom. I finally treated myself to a 5-star elk hunt in Chama, New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
This place is out of the movies. The lodge at Chama, it's called
Timbers.
The Timbers at Chama. I checked it on the internet today just for fun. It's rated at 5.5 stars. The cooks that cook in the lodge are all chefs that have been through the school in Florida. I don't remember the name of it.
Juilliard or some culinary school.
I don't know. But I booked a hunt and took Missy. And we went there and checked in, and the room was magical. Absolutely magical. The lodge was unbelievable. And we went hunting, and she stayed in the lodge and went in the kitchen and kind of hung out with the chef because she was fascinated with the meals he was making, and he was fun, and she was occupied, and I'm out in the bush hunting, and we saw lots of elk out of our range, and it wasn't going to work. And finally, we were down to the last day of the season when our licenses would expire, and we hadn't gotten an elk. And we woke up, and she said to me, I'm going to go with you the last day. I'm going to hunt with you. And I went, oh, well, cool. We woke up to a blizzard.
Oh, shit.
And the guide showed up, and he said, do you want to go? And I went, absolutely. And she said, I'm going to. And he went. Most of the men that hunt there were very, very wealthy men. I wasn't. And they had very spoiled wives who wouldn't have gone out in a snowflake if it meant their lives. The eyelids took too long for us to wait around.
Right.
So we went hunting. She got all gowned up in blizzard weather, and we left. We left there and went hunting in a blizzard. And we went to a ranch that he had leased, and they had a herd of nationally registered wild Mustang horses on the ranch. And we got up there in the pitch dark, and it was snowing like hell. It was about 14 inches on the ground, and it was coming. We just got out of the truck. She got out with me, and we took off. And we went up over this ridge, and he was glassing and all that, and he said, there's a bull elk down there. And I went, where? And he said, he's over there. And I looked, and the snow was going by. And I went, yeah, right. So he said, let's go. And we took off. And the snow was so deep, she didn't have a gun. And she was shuffling along using our trail that we blazed with our feet and our boots and our gear.
For those of you who don't know my mother, she's 5'1".
Yeah, 14 inches of snow was to her knees.
She's 95 pounds. She is a 2 inches above a legal midget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there she is, all bundled up behind us in this blizzard. So we start down the hill, and I said, "Okay, let's go for him. If you see him, I don't see him." So we started down the hill, and this ranch that was under lease to the guy that we were staying, the lodge we were staying in, had this wild Mustang horses herd. And there were a bunch of babies. And they were just colts. And they were fur balls. And they were her size.
Yeah.
And this little Mustang showed up and started playing with her.
Huh.
If I could have changed my whole object of being there and had a camera to watch that baby Mustang play with her, it was fascinating to watch how he would bounce up and flare his mane and bend himself around and go sideways and flirt with her. It was unbelievable to watch. And she stayed with us, and finally we got up close enough, and I had a pocket full of bullets, and he said, "There's your elk," and there he was, and he was standing there.
Go get him, Tiger.
And the guy, and they had, before we went out in the field, they took me to a range to want to make sure that I could shoot.
Yeah.
And I had every bullseye. So he was like, "Oh, this is no problem." I had a problem. I brought with me a box of 308 bullets for a 30-06 rifle.
Oh, nice.
So he said, "There he is, start going." So I started shooting. Never hit him. Wrong bullet and the wrong gun. So we kept going, and we got down there, and I finally, when I ran out of bullets out of that box, I put a bullet in from the other box and got him on the first round.
Yeah. And it's funny.
It's kind of like you, Jack, going through all the bullets in your pocket.
Yeah, and then leaving the rest in the truck. Don't worry, Jerett, you'll get there.
Yeah, no, I'm going. We're road tripping.
Dad's, like, his white whale, like Moby Dick, was a bull elk. He had never shot a bull elk.
So that was your first?
It was my first.
It was his first. And he sent me a picture, and it's this poor 5x5 raggedy old.
Last day.
This bull was walking through the meadow finding a place to die of old age.
Dad calls him last chance Alice.
So, anyway, they called the lodge up and said, "We got an elk down." So the elk, they came and they came out with a truck that had a winch on it, and they brought the elk up onto the truck, and we went back to the lodge. And the owner of the lodge and the guy that took us, I don't know what he said to the owner, but the owner walked up to Missy, and he said, "Missy, you're the real deal. You went out there and did that with him. You're the real deal." Because none of the other wives that were in that lodge would have left that lodge in that snowstorm if it meant a divorce.
So what does it look like to hunt there now, to stay there? Is it pretty expensive?
It's gorgeous.
It's It is a breathtaking, gorgeous experience. But they hunt a legitimate hunt. There's a ranch adjacent to it. I don't remember the name of it, but it's called a high fence ranch.
Oh, that's cheap.
Okay.
And in the high fence ranch, they have different corrals with elk in it. And they're fed by them.
Right. Yeah, you can walk up and pat
And
them.
depending on what size elk you want, tells you what the fee is.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
kind of
cheap.
like, well, no, Tahoe's not like that. Well, I mean, Tahoe, you're paying top dollar plus a trophy fee plus a this plus a
But
that.
these guys wouldn't get up and leave until they'd had breakfast and all that. And then they go out and they'd say, yeah, I like that one right over there. And they'd say, well, that one's $25,000. Oh, that's all right. And they'd get out and put their gun on the hood of the truck and shoot. And if they didn't get them, the guide that was behind them just followed up for them and say, yeah, you did get them.
Good job.
Yeah, it was disgusting. But I would never hunt a high fence ranch.
No,
But
and that's what gives hunters a bad name, right? So people with a lot of money do a lot of dumb stuff.
The cordon bleu school. is
Oh,
with
it was a cordon.
Yeah, with the chef
Missy's
on it.
telling me that the
Oh,
chef there was graduated from the Cordon Bleu School of Cooking,
It was fabulous.
and he was fabulous, and he showed her stuff, and we would come back and have our meals there, and it was...
And this
I'll
place
tell
is still open. We can
It's
still go
still
there.
open. I'll tell you what, if you ever want to go for that kind of an experience, I'll go with you.
So we should plan that.
Yeah, can we get somebody to sponsor though? That's
Yeah, I just...
A lot of money.
But it's going to cost... It cost us $8,000.
Okay.
Back then.
that's
Back then.
yeah, that's a five-figure hunt. And
Okay.
you can do. We've done a lot more other hunts
Yeah.
for a lot cheaper. And Dad shot his gigantic
Yeah,
elk.
that fucking monster.
Yeah. But let's talk about one other thing here. And these are we can go to a million of these stories.
Yeah.
God, I could talk about this all night.
No, but
I'm about to lift this desk up hands-free.
a night in the camp. And we laughed and
Oh,
joked.
boy.
Yeah. And we won't go into too many of these stories because these are probably some of the more favorite hunting stories. And we told one when we talked about our first Alaska hunting trip about the night that we sat there and drank Pendleton.
Pendleton will always have a place in my heart from that trip.
100%. That's one of watching my dad fall asleep with a toothpick in his
Yeah.
mouth after looking at us like,
Did you pull it out?
oh, we
Yeah.
did. I pulled
Oh,
it. He's
yeah.
like, I wasn't sleeping.
He's like, I was awake.
Jason's out cold, and Jim, but Jerett and Dad and I, we sat there in the pouring rain in Alaska,
For hours.
and there was nothing else to do but to talk,
Yeah.
and to be a person. And anybody that's listened to the show has heard me harp on the biggest lost art with people is interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
Like we said, we had the Garmin InReach. We all sent everybody.
Yeah.
Took a second and sent a wife a text message, hey, we're still alive,
Yeah,
we're
we're
out
good,
here,
yeah.
hopefully we can caribou tomorrow. And that was it. There's no screens, there's no noise, there's no sound of the freeway, there's no sound of airplanes.
We were miles into a mountainside.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of nothing.
So all we had was our company. And Elkhorn Mountain is where probably one of the biggest first real hunting experiences. I think I did Elkhorn Mountain shortly after the bear hunt.
Yeah.
I had to be 12 or 13, and I was with a bunch of full-grown men, and it was my first hunting experience, and it was very eye-opening for me. But Dad can tell some stories that they did up there. I mean,
One of my favorite stories is Jack was there, and he was a beautifully behaved man, young man.
Fucking asshole.
child.
And here I am, we are hunting with a bunch of farmers.
Yeah.
And most of them were pretty big boys. One of them, the father of everybody, was 6'5", about 285. And I'll never forget the day I was with him on the farm, and he said, "You want to go with me when we're feeding?" I went, "Yeah." And he had 105-pound bales of hay. And he said, "We're going to take some hay out to the cows and we're going to feed them." I said, "Okay." Then I went out with him, and he had them all stacked with a forklift on the truck and all that stuff, and we drove out there. And he reached up and he grabbed 2 bales of hay. They're 120 pounds apiece, right? He picks up one in each hand and starts walking toward the cows. I grabbed the 125-pound bale of hay, couldn't get it off the ground. And he was carrying 2. The man was a giant of a guy. And so he's with us. And Jack loved him, and they were like family to us. And he brought a fellow along that we'd hunted with a number of times, and he was a character.
Yeah, I think he came more to drink.
And he came more to drink.
He was there for a good time, not a hunting time.
Well, we all started having a good time around the campfire.
Yeah. Well, you need one. You need one of those.
And my big buddy there, he had a pop-up camper, which is on a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And you could crank it up, and it had full headroom and all. He had it all set up. The camper was all there. And it was right near the fire. And this younger character was there, and he was getting hammered. And we
shattered.
Shattered.
Proper shattered.
He got shattered. Well, at some point, he fell asleep. And everybody started teasing the big guy about, "Hey, your buddy there, he's asleep." And he said, "Yeah, I'm sick of that." He walked over, reached down, put his hand in his belt, put his other hand on his collar, and he picked him up off the ground by the belt and the collar. Then he just slipped his arm around his waist and let go of his collar, and the youngster was hanging like a limp noodle.
Like a corpse.
and the old man said, "I'll take care of this." And he took off toward his camper, and we're all sitting around the fire watching this. And Buddy's all swinging and shaking. And Raymond opened the back door of the camper, grabbed Buddy by his collar, and lifted his head up, and then moved forward and dropped him on the floor of the camper, let go of him, reached down, picked up his ankles, and shoved him in on the floor. And he went, "He'll be all right for the night." And he shut the door of the camper and came back.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
That same night, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to pee. And I hear this noise, and I went, "What am I listening to?" And I got out of my tent, and there was the big guy all alone with a beer in his hands, singing
By the fire.
at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I snuck away, peed, and went back and got in the tent. And I don't know what happened after that, but that was the way it ended for me.
You don't get suckered into that, like, "Hey, you're awake? Man, come drink with me." Like,
Guess how many animals we shot on that trip?
Yeah.
0.
0.
But you had a good damn time?
You know what's funny thing about that? There were 2 other things that happened there. We were camped, I don't know, like 10,000 feet in elevation.
Oh, way up.
We were way up.
Yeah,
we're all in canvas wall tents, and there was a thunderstorm. The first night we were up there was a thunderstorm, and I remember it very vividly. We were inside of the thunderstorm. In my mind,
Absolutely.
I mean, we were in it. Like, we were above the cloud level. Zeus was throwing
Right next to you?
lightning bolts
Like,
at
hold
us.
this for me, kid.
It was... The lightning was so close that you could hear it sizzle.
And you could smell it.
And you could smell it.
Oh, shit.
And then they say, you count between the lightning and the thunder. It would flash, sizzle, boom.
Oh, like right there.
It's here. And you're laying in the tent, and the tent walls are rattling.
So way closer than Alaska.
Oh, dude, this thing was on top of us, and I'm trying to be tough because I'm 12 and
got the world.
I want my dad to keep bringing me on these hunting trips. And there's big guys like they got sleep apnea and they're snoring and choking on their tongues and the lightning is flashing. So the next day we get up to go hunt and my dad looks at me and he goes, "Are you okay? You look terrible." And I said, "I didn't sleep at all last night." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "The thunder and the lightning, and it sounded like Frank was dying."
Somebody speaking tongues over there.
So I learned what sleep apnea was. But it was the wildest like experience. And I mean it felt like we were inside a storm.
Well, I'll tell you what. So harvesting an animal is great. But I don't think it would have the same draw for me if it wasn't the time that you get to spend with your people. Because when you go hunting, it's your people. I mean, we're not taking outsiders. We're not fucking... Yeah, if you're just like, hey, I want to go to see what it's like. Like, no, we're not taking you on a big hunt. We'll take you to shoot a pig.
It's not a field trip.
No, it's not a field trip. No. But it's bonding time that you didn't think you need. That when you're done, you realize, like, fuck, man, like, I feel so much better now after the fact. And you don't even know you need it.
There's a magic we may have a little problem sharing with you. Those experiences really can affect your future. They can affect your life. You get to see... Because there have been people on hunts that we've gone on together that panic.
Really?
And if someone's genuinely frightened about the elements, like when Jack was saying, at 11,000 feet, which is right about at the timberline,
right,
we would camp right below the timberline, and the air is thin, and people do get altitude sick. But when a thunderstorm hits that, it's a different storm than at sea level.
Right. Oh,
very.
Oh, because you're right there in the cloud line. I mean, like you're there,
and you're eating it right there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. I don't know if Jack's been along, but I've been on some hunts where I've got full-grown guys that were crying, that they were that terrified that they were going to die. And none of us were going to die.
And here I am playing
but too. It isn't, but the elements really rattle you.
Well, and if you're not used to it too, that elevation, so we go to Big Bear or whatever, that's not even that high of elevation. Was it 4,000, 4,200 feet, something?
I think the highest point in Big Bear is like 8,000.
Yeah, but we don't go that high.
No.
We're around 4,000 in Running Springs. 6,000? Okay. JJ's over here like, nuh-uh.
We met in the middle.
Yeah.
Thank God JJ and my mom are here to keep us all.
When we run, so me and Jack will run firewood up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
At the end of that, I'm like, and Jack's like, not just you. Like, like it sucks out here. I can't imagine another 6,000, 5,000 feet. Well, the air's got to be shit.
It's nothing but a lot of people, the idea, it's the fantasy of it.
Right. It sounds
great and it sounds this, and like we've done it enough, and Jerett, you and Dad and I, and we've done it enough to where you can appreciate the solitude, and you can appreciate, there's a kind of a sadistic old saying is, without the threat of death, there's really no reason to live at all.
Right.
And so when you're out there kind of challenging yourself against the elements and living like our ancestors used to do and doing all that kind of stuff, there is something that's very rewarding about going through that experience. And not to say that they're all hard and terrible and all that kind of stuff, but going through that and doing that, like with us in Alaska, I remember opening day for Caribou in Alaska. We were out of the tent. We were looking for animals. Jason and I went all the way across the valley that was kind of between us. And as we went across the valley, the fog rolled in. And the fog rolled in like...
It was thick. It came up fast.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
We were in the cloud layer. The clouds were probably doing 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We got across the valley, and I turned around, and we couldn't see the tent. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have the GPS, and we didn't have anything. And it sounds stupid. We were probably 500 yards from the tent, but we knew the general direction.
Yeah.
But when you look up and you're just buried in fog, we couldn't see 5 feet ahead of us.
Well, what people don't understand too is you're in a million acres of shit.
Yep.
And our tent is a tent. Like if you wander,
It's a dot.
yeah, it's a dot.
Oh,
on
it's
a-
nothing.
Like it's nothing. So you could very easily go up a mountain, right? Because you never walk in a straight line, especially up a hill, and then come back down thinking that you're coming down the same path and be a half a mile off.
The hunting experience and what people ask me all the time about, well, you hunt. And I always tell them hunting is more about the experience.
Yeah.
Whether I shoot an animal or not, I've had so many more fun experiences with Dad and with
That's
you.
the beauty of it. It's it's a life refreshing. I don't even know how to explain it to you. It is a great thing to be able that your wife is loving enough to allow you to go off and get dirty and not have a shower for 10 days.
Yeah.
You stink like a goat.
Oh, yeah.
You look like a goat.
Yeah.
And you all think you've done a hell of a job, and you got come home with nothing.
Yeah, we had tag soup.
Yeah.
Come home with memories.
Yeah, memories.
You come home with memories.
Well, I tell everybody, I
Yeah.
said, this is the greatest thing that you don't know you need in your life.
Yeah. Really,
Like,
honest to God.
I love it to death.
Yeah.
And I'm new to it. And
it's a good
you know, there's a lot of things that I would, like to experience and go hang out and do things, man. And we just got to get to it. It's going to be expensive to go do all these hunts, but if we don't get drawn soon for something fun, we're gonna be like Alaska and then the farm, the ranch.
Yeah, we'll go hunt the farm. But we're going to do that. We got doe tags. We're going to go hunt the farm.
Yeah, we got no time. I'm 82.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep hunting until I can't.
Good. So let's start planning some
And
fucking
so
hunts.
I'd love to spend the time with you two men.
Let's do it. Let's start planning stuff.
Yeah.
So I absolutely want to get as much time in hunting with you as I can.
Oh,
And
we got a million laughs ahead of us.
yeah. All right. Well, what
Should we
do you think? We shoot this motherfucker?
Let's bag and tag this episode.
All right. Let's tag this one. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, Senior's ready too, apparently. I've been Jerett,
I've been Jack.
I've been Dad.
and this is Shattered Wisdom Podcast, and you motherfuckers are welcome.